This is episode 1 of Eat This, Drink That Season 2. We are talking white wine with Steve today. Hope you guys enjoy.
All right, we're here.
We're live with a new episode of Eat This, Drink That, making it by the skin of our teeth with Ali here. But let me set this up. We got, this is our Season 2 with Fireside. Steve is in charge of this one, and I'm going to let him explain what his drink that is. But yeah, we're talking wines. So go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, so how do you break up? Wine, most people find super complicated, a little intimidating. It's a very broad category. So we're breaking it up similar to how we break up spirits. We don't just talk about spirits as a whole category. We broke it up into different cocktails. We just did a bourbon season. We're going to be doing a rum season. We're going to be doing an agave season. So the best way I thought to break up wine would be the categories: white, red, sparkling, and dessert.
Okay.
So we're going to spend the month of January just doing white wines, red wines, sparkling, and dessert.
You forgot a couple categories. Just
What?
sloth, green.
Yeah. Boone's
That's all
Farm.
I can remember from 7.
Oh, you mean the yes. Yeah.
And big.
Yeah.
Gluttony.
Wine is gluttony. Yeah. Wine and food. So
right.
Today we're going to do white. Everybody, and this will be kind of a theme throughout all, at least the first 2 episodes. Everybody has a go-to. When you are going to the grocery store or going to a liquor store, you know what I really like? Ali likes Jingendas now. So his go-to might be Jingendas.
I do.
I think you posted a photo, Ryan, from Costco. You might have a go-to of Camus, a Napa Cap.
Right.
There might be go-tos. We're going to go outside the box of go-tos today. Okay. And the biggest go-to, I would think, I'm trying to remember if Sauvignon Blanc or Chardonnay has the edge. Is that your fan?
Yeah. No, it's my mic. I forgot to plug it in. I was like, let's just show the people. I was like, why isn't the light red?
Hey, Steve, what's your go-to wine, Steve? What do you do?
I really like Pinot Noirs.
Pinot Noir. Okay,
I've been on a Sangiovese kick.
And we're doing red wines. What, next week we're doing red wines?
Yeah, we're doing red wines next week. For white wines, my go-to is Chablis. Or at least it used to be. Chablis is changing. Global warming is changing things out in the world. I love Gruner and Albarino, which we're going to be talking about.
I think he's showing his hand, folks.
Yeah.
So, you know what I like in white wines? Is kind of piercing acidity. Less ripe tropical fruit and more linear. Which is why I used to just love Chablis, because Chablis is very northern, and this plays straight into our first wine. It's very northern. The grapes have difficulty ripening. So as a grape ripens...
Sounds like a problem.
Yeah, no, it's a good thing, because as grapes ripen, think about your acidity is high when it's not ripe, and as the sugars go up, the acid goes down. And somewhere right when they balance, you're going to pick. But in Chablis, the acid always stayed a little higher than the sugar. So your wines were around 12.5%, but really kind of bracing tart acidity. Great with any kind of food and cocktail wine. But Chardonnay is probably...
I have to ask you this, or I want to jump in here because... you use this word, like, this is a Steve word, bracing, like, and I feel like when I started this conversation, it was like, when I drink Bordeaux, like, it burns, and it's really not pleasurable, and this bracing thing you attribute to red, but I feel like bracing with white is chill, like, you know what I mean? Like, a bracing red is tough to drink to me, bracing white, not that hard. Like whites, not as hard to deal with compared to red. The only problem with white wine is when it's bad and it's sugary and you just have a ripping, just bad next day. Let's be honest.
Those are a lot of great points. There's a lot of bad Chardonnay out there that's made in the middle of California. All have a little bit of residual sugar left. They're sweet. They're tropical fruit. They're like pineapple. Most people can just, they throw down. That residual sugar always kind of leaves because you're drinking the same amount of wine. It's not like a dessert wine where you're only pouring a little 2-ounce pour.
Yeah, true.
You're pouring 6 most people are pouring 6-ounce glasses and knocking it back. Here's the difference. Red wine braciness is more astringency. There's a drying sensation in a lot of red wines, like Bordeaux, that most people have to get used to. Bracing in the sense of refreshing in a white wine is a little different. The acidity makes you feel your mouth water. You know that sensation of your mouth watering? It's mouth watering good. Yeah. That's tangy. What you get. It's tangy.
It's like lemon juice. It just kind of gets you there. Squirt of lemon.
Bingo. Squirt. It's tangy. It's tart. It's racy. And all these white wines have a different expression of that acidity. Like the Chardonnay acidity is different than a Riesling acidity, than a Gruner Veltliner. And those refreshing sensations are what we're going to kind of talk about today. But you don't have to go, most people, and this is why we didn't break wine down into food wine and cocktail wine. Because you can still cocktail with a really nice, lively, acidic white. You shouldn't limit what you're drinking just to certain scenarios. If the wine is really good, you're going to enjoy it sitting around talking with friends, having cocktail wine, or you're going to enjoy it with some amazing fish or some chicken dish, roasted chicken. You're going to enjoy it either way. Okay. Everybody's go-to is Chardonnay. That's number one varietal. Maybe right behind that is Sauvignon Blanc from New Zealand, or they could be a little close. Yeah. So there was this whole saying in the early aughts, ABC. You guys know what that means?
Oh my gosh, I used to know what this means.
ABC?
ABC. I don't know. Think Chardonnay.
Wait.
You stumped me. What is it?
Anything but Chardonnay.
Oh, okay.
It was.
I thought I was going to say always blast Chardonnay. Like
that's a college mentality.
Chardonnay.
But I'm a counter this, and I know you were like, "Oh, I want to avoid wine that tastes like tropical fruit," which is part of the descriptors that just always. I'm like, we might as well. The next stop, Steve is talking licorice and tobacco, but I feel like with leather. Chardonnay, what kind of caught me and made me go, "Wow, white wine can be serious," and kind of cocktail wine is that buttery, oaky, heavy Chardonnay. Like that was when I remember when I first had one of those, I was like, "Oh yeah, this is hefty." You know what I mean? Yeah. Like it was almost like white wine went from like it's kind of hot out, I'm having something for lunch. You know what I mean? Felt like having a glass of wine with lunch to like white wine for the winter time. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So like that's what I always think of like a white wine to talk about is like that buttery, oaky Chardonnay. But to be fair, I haven't had one of those in a long time.
And Steve, I think we've talked about this before, but if you have like a really good Chardonnay, it's unbelievable. But like Steve was saying, there's just so many like not good ones available on the market, cheap ones, like that you have so many bad ones. But when you have a good Chardonnay,
they're expensive. Like a California, I mean, Steve, jump in here, right? I mean, aren't they? I think one of the problems is, like, especially at the grocery store, and you're like, you weren't planning to maybe spend $50 on a bottle of wine, and you're looking at that Chard, and you're like, oh no, this $30 one might be the. I might have made the find. I might have made it. It never is, or it's just you never know. You're rolling the dice for sure.
So in the 90s, and the reason that ABC acronym came about from wine professionals in the early aughts is because Napa Chard blew up. Schaefer, Newton, Konzegard, all these kind of culty.
Rombauer? What about
Rombauer? Rombauer. Winter whites. That's a really good way to talk about it.
Okay.
The Chardonnay sits in barrel, so it's fermented in barrel. You get more texture. You get more extraction from the oak. It goes through something called malolactic fermentation, so it gets rid of that racy acidity, and it gives you more of a lactic acidity. So it's buttery.
Yeah.
And then they'll stir it on the lees, and you get this whole diacetyl thing going on that's more butter.
Oh my! I tried to keep up.
Yeah.
Lactic. It's reminding me of that milk byproduct, lactate, you see in the grocery store. And then that last thing, forget it. Completely gone.
But you recognize butter popcorn.
Yeah, word. It is butter popcorn.
Yeah. There's this texture on Napa Chards too, because of how they make it. They're rich and kind of voluptuous, lots of texture to the wine. They're a little heavier for a white wine. Like Ali said, this is my winter white. I don't want something refreshing, like I'm sitting in the backyard on a 100-degree day. I want something heavy and rich and kind of really enjoyable. So that's where ABC came from. We're tired of all the Napa Chardonnays. We need to start drinking other wines. We'll talk about two that really became popular, maybe outside wine professionals in the 90s. 2000s, the aughts. Right. But let's talk about Chardonnay. I was talking about Chablis. You can easily be at a grocery store and, to Ali's point, spend $60, $70 on a Chardonnay. Yeah, it's that easy. Napa Chards, you know what you're getting. Now, this show has really always been about drink better, eat better. Enjoy your whole life better. You might be drinking less because you're spending $50, $60, $70 a bottle. Even 30 is probably outside of most people's daily drinker. But what you're getting is way better. So instead of a Napa Chard, you go to a Chablis. And because Chablis is changing, the grapes are ripening a little bit more. You're getting some more fruit, a little less acidity. So it's somewhere between a Napa Chard and that old style Chablis.
Okay.
You can also, we talk about Burgundy all the time, but we usually speak about Burgundy about Pinot Noir.
Yeah.
A Nuit St. George or Chambord, whatever you guys are drinking. I can't remember. Savigny Le Bon, I think is what you had at Christmas. Ali, what did you drink?
Dude, I was over the moon on that one, man.
Yeah.
Smooth. Oh.
And the French are really good in their laws. They semi-protect the consumer against fraud, basically. There's a hierarchy to quality. You have the top wines up here called Grand Cru, then you got the Premier Cru, then you got the village stuff, and then you just got the kind of generic Burgundy. The same thing
Rite
applies.
Aid, if you will.
What's that?
Rite Aid.
Yes, Rite Aid Bistro. It's a better way to say bistro.
You know it's
Table
tough times
wine.
when you're checking out the wine at Rite Aid or CVS.
Right, that's what we're avoiding.
But you know what's funny? If you go, you will see it ain't all jugs and strawberry. Crosby drank Boone's in college. Bring it up. Yeah, it's true. It's true. And box. You will see what is it? Gnarly head. You know what I mean? You'll see those. That's right. Right there next to the aspirin.
I think it was Walmart somewhere 10, 15 years ago in the States that they sell alcohol. They hired either a master somm or a master of wine to curate their program in the store so that what they were offering was way better. So that's a good point. We're not drinking. The bottom floor of wine has risen because people are usually expecting more quality than they were, say, in the 80s.
Okay.
That's true.
They're not drinking Carlo Rossi jug wine, 3 liters or 5 liters. They're not drinking Livingston Cellars from Gallo. So the floor has gone up a little bit, but we're up just a couple notches above that.
Okay.
So you can do the same thing in Burgundy for white wines. You can buy a Puy Fusé, which I'm sure everybody here knows about. You can buy.
No, they don't. That's the whole point. But I have seen that. And you know what? I'll throw this out there for the layman or whatever. This one's in the supermarket. I've been seeing this for like decades. Louis Jadot. Yep. The label looks like kind of a weak early graphic from Gladiator. You know what I mean? Like it looks like some Roman pillar and the face without eyes. Well, that's a little fancier.
This is a little fancier, but the same sort of Frenchy looking label. Gothic.
Trust me, that's more like clean and classic. The Louis Jadot looks like, when you see like kind of like it's new. It's the new money mansion. It's like a mansion that they tried to make look like ancient Rome.
Right.
You know what? It's like Caesar's Las Vegas.
Yes.
Caesars.
You paint the bricks in instead of actually putting bricks.
It's wallpaper, baby. It's all wallpaper.
You can go. Louis Jadot does make really nice, finer wines from that Premier Cru category. So one below the best. They even make some Grand Cru. Meursault. You've had to have heard of Meursault or Corton Charlemagne or Montrachet from.
That's expensive.
Very expensive.
I know that. That is a wine that I remember being at one of the top end restaurants in LA more than 20 years ago.
Right.
And I remember my dad was with me and he was flipping through the wine list and he was looking at Montrachets. And I remember this is like, let's call it 2001. These bottles were like $300. I mean, in the wine list. And this is an expensive restaurant. Like, it's kind of weird to think back that it was like 4 courses for $60, which isn't that expensive now. But back then it was like, whoa, it's crazy,
Yeah.
$300 bottle of wine, though. Come on.
You could spend 60 to 100 on a Montrachet right now from one of the 2 villages.
At the store.
At a store, yeah. So 300 to 500 on a list isn't out of the ordinary. Okay. But instead of saying and kind of dismissing an entire grape, there's no reason to dismiss Chardonnay. And I've had some stunningly beautiful Napa Chardonnays that maybe some of the new Somms might completely dismiss and kind of push away. But you can still drink Chardonnay even outside of Burgundy. That's really, really good. So one that I brought today.
Oh, wait, so that's a good clarification. So white Burgundy is Chardonnay.
Yeah. Chardonnay.
And what is Chablis? Is Chablis Chardonnay grape too?
Chardonnay.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
And you know what's funny? Chablis and Beaujolais are a part of Burgundy. It's all the same long little line from the top to the bottom.
Beaujolais is part of Burgundy too?
Yeah. So Chablis, then Côte de Nuit, Côte de Beaune, the Maconnais, and then Beaujolais.
Let me take this opportunity to say that we have gone over this in a previous episode, Ollie, I believe, right? Steve, we covered this on one of our, so we're on YouTube, by the way. We have Eat This, Drink That on YouTube. We have some old episodes, so we cover wine in the past as well. So be sure to check that out. Anyways, keep going, Steve.
Yeah,
Sorry.
we have 3 seasons or 4 seasons that we did on Spotify and YouTube.
3.
So
let's not rest on our laurels, though. We're here to bring knowledge right now.
New content.
Yeah.
I know.
So
just saying.
Chardonnay over there in Burgundy, Chablis down to the Maconnais, all white wine, and it's Chardonnay. Chardonnay is what the biggest grape for white wine is for Napa. And for most of California, actually, there's some beautiful Chardonnay coming out of Santa Rita Hills, just above Santa Barbara, Central Coast.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I want to talk about
absolutely
Australia.
Okay.
So
Australia.
Yes, this is actually
Took a big leap there.
Beautiful Chardonnay. Yeah, we're going to talk everything that I have back here. I got 8 wines.
Okay.
All over the world, all over the grape world too. So there's 8 different grapes. I don't think I have any duplicates. I don't.
All right.
And they're, I mean, literally Southern Hemisphere, Northern Hemisphere, West, East, they're all over. There's a reason why I chose this. I chose this, well, one, I love this producer, Vast Felix. I love this region, Margaret River. There was a winery in the early 2000s, Lewin Estates, that was wildly popular, especially with wine geeks. Also Chardonnay, also Margaret River. Everybody knows Yellowtail. That's what they think of when they think of Australia. That's coming from some area very similar to the Central Valley in California. It's hot. They have to acidify the wine. There's always residual sugar, a little bit left in the wine, so it has this sweetness to it. The fruit profile is very tropical, and people love it. And it's like $7. Out in the Margaret River, and there's plenty of great regions in Australia producing way better wine than Yellowtail. This happens to be very different because the Margaret River sits it's the furthest from the United States. So you have to fly to Sydney, whatever that is, 20 hours. You have to fly across the entire continent of Australia, all the way to the West Coast. That's a 5-hour flight. Then you drive from Perth all the way south down to the Margaret River, and I think that's a 4-hour drive. So that's roughly 30 hours to get to this region. And you have 2 seas that are kind of coming together, and you have this cooling influence about where these two, you got the cool waters coming up from Antarctica. You have this, the Indian Ocean coming down. This cooling influence is very unique to this region in the world. So it's still a maritime climate like Bordeaux. You're right on the water, but it's a little warmer, and then you get these beautiful cooling influences. So Chardonnay thrives in this region. Some of the best wines made in Australia all come from Margaret River. They also do Cabernet. This wine is really, you get a little more fruit. So instead of apple, you're getting more peach, a little more pear.
Okay.
Yeah. Instead of going full tropical and you're, eating buttered popcorn, you're getting this beautiful fruit profile that's cleaned up by the acidity in the wine.
So it's not as heavy. It's not as heavy.
Exactly.
Okay.
Bingo.
Okay.
Why dismiss Chardonnay altogether? Start drinking better Chardonnay from around the world.
Australian,
right.
sure.
Well, I have to say, if I had to get like a Chardonnay that would be quote good, but beyond like looking to like France, because you kind of forget because you don't call French wines Chardonnays, you know what I mean? Call them by the region.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would. I hate to say it, but it would be like a Rombauer. You basically like any of those Northern Cal big Titan producers of like culty cabs. I'm like, I bet their Chardonnay's got bowls. You know what I mean? It's like it's a big bat. It's a big bat. You know what I mean? It was July. I needed a free agent. We got a big bat. We traded for a big bat. That's what I would if I had to make a move for Chardonnay. I haven't thought about Australian wine except for like Shiraz, which is like the wrong way to say Syrah. Ooh, controversial, right? And it's a Penfolds. Like when I think of like any Australian, I think Penfolds because I wouldn't sully myself with Yellowtail, but that Penfolds I could chill with. And Australian wine was always a wine that was a cocktail wine, quite frankly. You know what I mean?
My brother used to get Penfolds a lot.
Yeah, dude.
My brother got
you did.
Penfolds. Yeah.
And I bet Penfolds literally has 30 different labels. They have different bin numbers. They have different varietals. They got different regions, different quality levels. So you're going to see pinfolds everywhere. I mean, literally everywhere. A funny story. I used to sell to Assam in Beverly Hills at a nice restaurant, and he secretly loved pinfolds.
Pinfolds.
And it wasn't that much of a secret.
You don't have to tell us the name. What restaurant was it?
Oh, I can't even tell you the name because it's gone. This is a long time ago.
What kind of restaurant was it?
It was Italian too. That was the funniest part. It was an Italian restaurant, and you can't swing a dead cat in Beverly Hills without hitting an Italian restaurant. There's that many Italian restaurants in Beverly Hills.
Yeah, because it's for old rich people, and honestly, old rich people are not adventurous.
Yeah. Oh, I got another funny story about a restaurant who they decided to go a completely different way. So instead of catering to these non-adventurous people who would probably drink a Sangiovese or, a Chianti or a Napa Cab at an Italian restaurant, they would not have those on the wine list.
Oh, wow.
And like no Chianti whatsoever. And then Italian only. And they were really proud of this. But I find, granted, you can't have everything on a wine list, but you should always have something for someone who walks in the door who's not adventurous and says, oh, me and my wife love Chianti. They might drink a bottle of wine once a month. You should have a bottle of Chianti on the list when those people walk in the door.
My pet peeve is like looking at wines by the glass and you're like, don't do it. Don't get the $10 glass. It's not any good. In this day and age, it starts at, if you're lucky, it starts at 14. If you're lucky, really, it's a $20 glass. You'll actually get something freaking decent. I feel like what gets me is just like when you're like, damn, this was like, I think I'm drinking something at CVS. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it's just not good.
I saw this video go viral this week of a guy. He had a tube on each arm, and it was like of wine. One was red and one was white, and he was like shooting it. He was like shooting the tubes into the people's glasses and the tables. Way. Yeah. And his finger was plugging the hole. It was just wrong. It was so wrong.
It's like the guy in Mexico who blows the whistle and gives you the tequila shot.
Yeah. It was on the internet this week. Did we pull up the next bottle yet, Steve?
Yeah. So I'm set. So Chardonnay, well-known grape. Everybody reaches for it. They also reach for Sauvignon Blanc, mainly New Zealand. Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc. Everybody knows it. Everybody is drinking.
Good.
It's very good. There's quality levels too. You can have a decent, like a Kim Crawford. I want to say they're $10 a bottle, and then it goes all the way up.
Special.
Yeah, Costco special.
That's a Costco.
And then it goes all the way up. You can spend $30, $40 on a Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc. What's the other region of Sauvignon Blanc that you guys would immediately recognize right now?
The other region? God, it's going to be France or California, but I can't figure out which.
It's France. It's in the center. Sancerre.
Oh, yeah. That's
everybody sees Sancerre everywhere now. Every wine list has a Sancerre. Sancerre has steadily gone up in price. Because it's a limited area. It's not like you can keep growing. In France, you can't just start planting anywhere you want close by and call it Sancerre. The line's already drawn. There's only a certain amount of vineyard space. Your yields are controlled. So you can't just start growing more and making more wine. So supply and demand, because the supply basically stays the same, but the demand goes up, the price is going to go up. What are you looking up, Brian? Your face just lit up.
I was looking at Australia wine regions and now French ones.
Okay.
Just trying to
right across the river is Pouilly-Fumé. Not Pouilly-Foussé, which is that Chardonnay grape down in Burgundy, But Pouilly-Fumé sits right by Sancerre. Soil's slightly different. You're still getting a lot of the same flavors, and you get that kind of really racy acidity that you get with Sauvignon Blanc, that you get with a Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc, where it's really bright and refreshing. But you get this almost gunpowder, flinty, fun little flavor underneath that is very unique. That really you only get from Pouilly-Fumé. I forgot to tell you that first Chardonnay is 25.
Okay.
That Vas Felix. This
That
is
ain't
right.
bad.
You're spending a little bit more on this.
Yeah.
This is a smaller producer. They make very little wine. The quality is even higher, but it's only $32.
Great.
Whereas a producer over in Sancerre that makes this much wine would probably be 50. So just by switching the region across the river, you can spend a little bit less. And not that many.
I just gotta tell you,
Yeah.
that was, first of all, to get a good shard for 25. That's dang. That's
very cool.
Go to Australia. That was cool. I think, when you talk about Sauvignon Blanc, people know it because of, the stuff from New Zealand, Marlborough, Sauvignon Blanc, and people know it because, you're at a party, you see the bottle, you pour the glass, and you're like, damn, that was cool. You know what I mean? That was good, smooth, whatever you want to call it. But you keep going back to it. Basically, that means it's very drinkable, right? It's really drinkable. How does this compare the Pouilly-Fumé with your flint and your charcoal and your burnt fossil or whatever, your coffee grounds, you know what I mean? Whatever, tar, ashes from the sun.
Crowbar.
Less fruit forward. So this is going to be more herbaceous, whereas the Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc is more of that guava fruit and even towards jalapeno flavors without the.
So is it less? Look, I know you're going to say it's drinkable, but is it as drinkable without food? Because that's what you know about Marlborough. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So the acidity is roughly the same in how it expresses itself. It's that really racy, because Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc, that's why I don't really believe in cocktail wine versus food wine as much, because plenty of people just sit around and drink Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc by itself when they get home from work. That acid in Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc is very similar to this Pouilly-Fumé. So the difference,
so on par.
Yeah, it's very drinkable. The difference is the fruit. So instead of that guava kind of richer textured fruit from a Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc, you're going to get more grassy herbaceousness out of
cool.
this.
And you know what? With a label like that, it looks like you're talking about. You know what I mean? That don't look like no Yellowtail label. It doesn't look like Kim Crawford from Costco. I also bought an above ground pool. Yeah. That's a white wine that did not come with a coupon for an above ground pool. Classic.
Yes. You get a box of wine when you buy an above ground pool.
Kim Crawford comes in 24 or more. It's true. It's true. Kim Crawford is like, I got a lot of chicken, 6 whole chickens.
You know how we always talk about insider stuff, beverage insider, like cocktails. We talked about the Negroni being the insider, the bartender's cocktail. Some of the bourbons that we talked about, there were a couple like secret bourbons that insiders were drinking. Same thing with wine, and it's almost a little more precious because there's plenty of somms that want to differentiate themselves. But for white wine, outside of Riesling, which is also an insider grape, Chenin Blanc. I don't know if you guys have ever heard that. It's a grape. Chenin Blanc.
Ooh, nice.
Its ancestral home is right down the river from Pouilly-Fumé and Sancerre in a place called Vouvray, which they make dry, they make medium sweet, they make sweet, they make sparkling wine out of it. But the other place that it has just thrived is South Africa.
Cool.
Nice. Yes.
All right.
Yeah. And down in South Africa, it's actually known as a different name. It's called Steen, Steen. But this guy
I was looking that up in my book. Yes. I thought it was Gruner. I thought Gruner in South Africa.
We got a Gruner Veltliner on here.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to be going off the reservation here really shortly.
I'm here for that.
Steam.
Yeah.
No, that's right.
So it's down there. It's called Steam. But this guy in particular has really driven the success of Chenin Blanc from South Africa. Ken Forrester. He specializes in Chenin Blanc. Just guess how much this wine is.
25.
No. I'm going. I bet there's a reason to this. $16.
$15. And I bet,
good guess, Ali.
depending on where you are, you might even see this for $12. I did that.
Wow.
So
really,
that's a good point. So I chose the highest price that I found online for all these wines. You can easily find this for $20. The Chardonnay.
Seriously?
Yeah. This is $15. So this is his entry level Chenin Blanc. It's completely dry. Chenin Blanc has very high acidity, natural high acidity. But it's more tart than racy. And it's really kind of refreshing. And you get this kind of overripe apple flavor from the fruit itself. But it's also very refreshing cocktail, food.
Yeah,
no one thinks about South Africa. I mean, they sell a lot of South African wine in England. We don't sell a lot of South African wine in the U.S. In fact, I just met Ken Forrester at Aspen Food and Wine, and I complained. I'm like, dude, I cannot find your wine anymore. He said, well, our importer dropped us because we weren't selling a lot of South African.
Yeah, I remember after I went to South Africa and did wine tasting, I remember coming back here and then trying to, replicate the experience at home and finding it challenging, even in Los Angeles. There'd be like one store that you could find it at or something.
Yeah. I mean, he'll pick up a different importer. The importer was being lazy, maybe had too many goals. Who knows why? But their short-term fix was to just drop the wine altogether. But this wine for $15, find it. Actually find this wine. You should be for sure in LA, you'll find it. In Austin, Ali, you should be able to find this wine.
Well, Steve, we're going to make sure to these are like, I can't believe it took this long to get to the price. These are great finds because, to really kind of argue that we're almost hovering around 20. I mean, I've been saying since 2008 when I literally basically I lost my job. It was like the recession, right? I went from getting $40 Pinots to yep, that's done. And I forced myself to just stick to $20 bottles of wine. And I was floored at how good 20 was in comparison to 40. It was not as severe of a dip as you would think. In the right store. It was pretty. Now, below 20, now you're starting to really play, now you're starting to waste your liver, Then you're just like, I mean, can it happen? Sure, but, you're really rolling the dice unless you got some inside help, like eat this, drink that. But this is fantastic.
This is great.
Like around 20.
I think if I were to average this out, there's a couple 30s. 330s.
As drinkable as my San Francisco tap water.
I'm going to say $22 average for all these wines. And
what's as drinkable as my San Francisco? I don't think that's an endorsement.
We got a comment. We got a comment along the way.
Somebody commented?
Yeah.
We got people viewing. This is great. Welcome back, Chris.
I don't know if we missed it, but
I'm dying right now. Sorry. That's amazing.
We got Chris is here again. Welcome back, Chris.
What's the what's the next bottle we got, Steve?
Okay, so we're going back to France because we're going a little off reservation. Here's where it begins. You guys like eating oysters, right?
Yes.
What?
I'm allergic, but
Oh, that's heartbreaking.
Skis.
I'm very sorry.
That is.
I've had them before.
Wow, the things
I've
we
had them
learned.
before, but once I learned I was allergic, I avoided them. But I have had them before. Yes,
You should
before
definitely avoid them if you're allergic.
Yeah, but I have.
Well, it clearly wasn't anaphylaxis, so I think,
I would have known.
Sounds
quickly.
like Ryan had a case of the oyster runs.
This is my favorite oyster wine, period.
Okay.
So you're still in this river going just below Paris called Loire. You got Pouilly-Fumé and Sancerre over here. You got Vouvray. On the far western side, just before it dumps into the Atlantic, you have Muscadet is the region.
That's
The grape, strangely, is called Melon of Burgundy, Melon de Bourgogne. But it's from this region. This is where it's from, its ancestral home. Almost no fruit. This is more kind of apple and acidity. But its defining characteristic is this beautiful salinity, almost rocky minerality that goes really well with oysters. And you should always look for these words, surly.
Surly, how do you spell it?
Whoa, why? No. Somebody is trying to get me to join another show. This just means on the lees.
Blown up.
So it sits with its dead yeast after fermentation, all the yeast that died off after eating sugar and converting it to alcohol settles at the bottom of your fermentation vessel. And if you stir it, you add texture. It's the same premise.
Wait, are you saying, is this like sediment? Yeah. Is there like junk in this wine?
You're taking it off the sediment before you put it in the bottle. It's the same process of how you make champagne. Okay. Instead of letting the CO2 burn off the fermentation vessel, it stays trapped inside the bottle, and champagne creates bubbles. But the yeast still has to die and lay somewhere. And when you lay it on those lees, you're getting more texture and flavor, almost like a biscuity autolytic flavor. So salinity, a little bit of.
Wait. You got to stop. What'd you call it after?
Let's just say biscuity.
No. I want to know about that word. Come on, the SAT word. Let's hear it.
Autolytic. That's the actual process of this whole thing. That's where the flavor comes from in champagne. You know what it's actually familiar to? What's the reaction of when you cook meat and on the outside, that Maillard reaction?
The browning.
Same thing.
Also known as browning.
Yeah.
Maillard.
Same thing.
It is called Maillard, but some people call it, it's called, brown the meat.
Well, that same is in here. It's not brown.
We may have lost him. I think he's out. We only got through 4 wines and he's toast. I'm drinking.
Well, I have not opened anything. So it's only $17.
Wow. We got to make a list of all these and just.
I'm going to have. I'll send out a photo.
These are great finds.
Yeah,
really great.
I'll send out a photo. So on a wine list, this might only be $60.
That's cool.
So you get
wait. 60 in the wine
on
list.
A wine list.
Oh, right.
You should be able to get this by the glass at a restaurant for $10 to at the most $15 at the most.
Cool.
Wait, is it really that common though? I mean, you have to be at like a raw bar.
Yeah, a raw bar. Almost every somm should have a Muscadet on their by the glass list at a raw bar.
Very cool.
Okay.
Any really reputable wine list will have a Muscadet on the list.
You know what I'm super stoked about that, and it's kind of funny that we're doing this because I am doing dry January. I feel great. It's only been 4 days. Feel great.
Fantastic.
5 days. But what I do for February is I did this last year. I did no red meat February. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a bottle of that. See, the problem is I don't like shucking oysters at home.
I don't either.
Like I'm going to lose my thumb. I want to pay for it. But I definitely want to like I want to do something where I just do like, you guys ever had charbroiled oysters like in New Orleans? It's just like cooked over butter and garlic. I'm just going to get the jar. I'm going to throw them in a pan. I'm going to dump copious amounts of butter and garlic, throw them in the broiler for a bit, pull them out, or make cream spinach and just roast the oysters and put them on there. Wow. And I'm going to drink that wine. Does it work with cooked oysters too?
Yes, I was just about to say. I mean, smoked, grilled, even Rockefeller, any sort of Rockefeller-esque style that you bake in the oven that you can do at home very easily. The muscadet will be fine, but with a little more flavor in the oysters, you can start going back to a Chardonnay or a Pouilly-Fumé or a Sancerre
if it's cooked, you're saying. If it's cooked, but raw.
This is my favorite. It's not even close.
Muscadet.
This is only 12.5% alcohol. We're not talking 14% alcohol. What is the Vance Felix? I want to say this is 14. No, 15.
Oh.
I want to throw something out there about alcohol by volume for a bit. I think here's a question. When you have it and it's less alcohol by volume, if it's a 12% versus a 14 or even a 13 or obviously a 15, is it less calories? Like, is it more calories the more alcohol?
So, I'd have to look that up.
Question. Great question.
Part of dry January, right? Everyone's trying to get
calories would be minimal. I think it's right around 100 calories per glass of a white wine. When you have residual sugar is when the calories go up. So, yeah.
Really? So those wines that are bracing, that are not tropical fruit, are going to be sugar. Dude, sugar. That white wine, sugary always white wine.
So Ali and Steve, the internet says more alcohol, more sugar. So far.
Yeah. But so the more alcohol, it fermented all the sugar out. It's gone. Where you're really going to see the increase in calories is when the sugar didn't get eaten by the yeast and it's still in the bottle. So number one, Prosecco is the sweetest. There's residual sugar in there. And depending on the producer, there's a lot of residual sugar. In Champagne.
All right. It was a segue. I feel like we have a couple more wines to get through. So that was my segue. My bad.
We got 4 more wines. And I promise we'll dive a little deeper into this in the 3rd episode. So in 2 more weeks in the sparkling wine episode, because that's where you see the most residual sugar outside of dessert wines. So the last 2 episodes of this season, we'll talk about residual sugar. What's left? How many calories? So Chardonnay, Sauvignon Blanc. We went into the Chenin Blanc, the insider wine, but the cheapest today too. The Muscadet for oysters. Everybody knows Pinot Grigio. Santa Margherita Pinot Grigio is one of the top selling wines in the world. There's a residual sugar left in that wine. Comes from northeastern Italy. There's a lot of high quality Pinot Grigio made in Italy, by the way. Okay. But you don't just have to drink Pinot Grigio. It's also called Pinot Gris. And you can go to Oregon.
Yeah.
And Oregon Pinot Gris. Pinot Gris has really found a home in Oregon with the climate and how it ripens. You get a little more acidity, a little less fruit. This is a serious Pinot Gris. This is Raptor Ridge. I think it's a selection of different single vineyards. This is $35. It's not inexpensive, but you can have something like Elk Cove Pinot Gris from Oregon, from Willamette, that I think is only 15 to 20. You don't have to spend a lot. I really like this one.
So what brand is this one again? What's the name of it?
Raptor Ridge.
Raptor Ridge. Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool.
They also make snowboarding equipment. Actually, no, snowmobiling equipment. It's the best in the industry. Yeah. I have to say Pinot Gris from Oregon, And I feel like usually Pinot Gris is from Oregon, but it could also be from France, right?
Well, yeah, they do Pinot Gris in Alsace. Pinot Gris or Grigio is grown all over the world.
Okay.
Right. I just, whenever, I feel like in restaurants, obviously with the right dishes, Psalms have definitely led me towards Oregon Pinot Gris. And to be honest, to Oregon Pinot Noir, because they tend to be food friendly, yet our New World.
Yeah. There's almost a Chardonnay quality to some Pinot Grigios or Gris. Okay. It's very versatile. It'll go with a lot of dishes, but you can easily just cocktail with this wine.
Nice.
Smooth.
It's very, very smooth, very refreshing, very pretty. It's a pretty wine.
All right.
Without being overtly floral, like, say, a Gewürztraminer or Charantes from Argentina, which is almost like a potpourri in a glass. Yeah. And it does smell like potpourri.
All right, what's next?
So I know Ali loves this. We only got 3 more wines.
Okay.
We did go on a pretty deep tangent right in the beginning of this, so I'll go a little quicker. Albarino. So this is a Spanish grape. Rias Baixas is the region of Spain, but you're over where Portugal and Spain kind of wrap around each other on the Atlantic coast. If this grape is same grape, but it's over in Portugal, it's in a wine called Vinho Verde. Vinho Verde, there's almost a little bit of bubbles left on the inside the bottle because they will bottle it before fermentation is completely complete so that it almost has an effervescence. That's not every Vinho Verde, but a lot.
And those are usually a lot lower alcohol percentage.
Lower alcohol and very inexpensive. You can find a Vinho Verde for $8-9.
That's tailgate wine. Hot tailgate wine.
But in Rias Baixas, there's different qualities. You guys have probably seen Martin Kodak's. That's probably the most recognized, or at least it's the largest distribution of Albarino from Rias Baixas. This is still only $20, and this is a little more serious of an Albarino. The producer just makes less. So hallmarks, you get this acidity is back in action again. But the fruit bowl, I always think of it as a fruit bowl. You have all these different flavors going on, citrus and pear and peach in an Albarino. And this will go with any seafood dish. Perfect wine for a wine bar. Cocktail wine. Now, let's go to the super geek stuff. These are both from Austria. Do you guys remember the restaurant Slanted Door in San Francisco?
Yeah. I know it well.
Late 90s, before they moved over to the Ferry Building, the Somm there was putting together where in this wine list really kind of everybody, Somms and buyers across the country started paying attention to this wine list because it was all Riesling and Gruner Veltliner, all from Austria and Germany.
Wow.
No one was really drinking Gruner Veltliner in the 90s at all. That's a grape, by the way. Riesling was still thought of, and it still suffers from this a little bit, as a very sweet wine. Blue Nun, Black Tower, all those really crappy mass-produced Rieslings that they sold a ton of Blue Nun in the 80s.
Really?
Tons. And it was all sweet. But this guy started putting together all these beautiful, dry Gruners and Rieslings, and a lot of Austrian. No one really thought of Austrian wine before. You're getting all the hallmark acidity again, but it's a refreshing acidity. This is a lot of herbaceousness in a Gruner Veltliner.
What's the name of it?
So the producer is Hogel. Hogl. It's from a region called Wachau. And there's another word that you're only allowed to use in the Wachau Riesling called Federspiel. It's an Austrian word. It's a sweetness level.
Okay.
This only has 1 gram, so it's still thought of as a dry wine, but you're allowed to go up to about 4 grams per liter.
Okay.
This wine is very, very versatile, and everybody will love Gruner Veltliner.
Are they all? Wait, no. So it's so funny because I thought Riesling comes in those
Yeah.
skinny
So does
bottles.
Gruner Veltliner. These are traditional, regional, traditional bottlings. The real reason a long time ago is because they couldn't ripen the grapes, really. So fermentation would stop. There'd be a lot of residual sugar left in the wines. So these highly sloped bottles,
Oh,
that viscosity from the extra sweetness, it wouldn't round out in these fatter bottles.
interesting.
Yeah. It was the traditional bottle of how it was served.
Cool.
So it keeps the flavor profile more
Well,
even.
no, I can't remember the technical thing but it was about the sugar that was left in the wine is how they
It
developed.
looks European, skinny, tall.
Sig.
Trying to. Looks like I know. Looks like you smoking a breakfast.
But you smoke with a
With one of those filters.
yeah.
Totally.
So
It's something you'd see in the movie Cabaret with Liza Minnelli.
So Gruner Veltliner from Austria. This is as versatile, maybe more versatile than some of the other wines that we've shown you, but probably as versatile as Albarino. And then Riesling just gets bashed a little too much.
Riesling is fantastic.
Yeah. It's the raciest acidity of all the wines with more high acid. All the grapes with high acid. This has the raciest kind of profile or nature to the acidity. It cleans the palate. It makes your mouth water. It goes with a whole range of dishes. Indian food, Asian food, anything spicy. These are the wines to start grabbing. So the Gruner is 25. The Riesling, this is a little nicer Riesling, 28. But still under 30.
What was the name on the Riesling one again, Steve?
Ikla. So this is from a famous family in Austria.
Awesome.
She might be a granddaughter. So this is a newer label. I think this label's only been around for maybe 10 years. She married, and this is their label. But she's one of the granddaughters of this very famous family in Austria.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm going to make a list. I'm going to do a tweet thread of all these wines so that people can know exactly what was recommended, get the names. Yeah. So we'll get that put together for people.
I'll take a photo. I'll send that over so we can post it.
Get singles, too.
I'll do singles.
All right, so
Ali.
I have some pairings.
Yes, this is what I was waiting for.
Pairings, okay?
Yes.
So I'm just going to get right into it. First off, here's going to be something fun for the rest of this season. What's in the red bag? Almost like what's in the red box. Maybe I'll find a box. What is in here? So let's talk about this. So Steve, when Steven originally talked about the wines we were going to talk about on this episode, he told me Gruner Veltliner. Right? Did I say it right? Gruner Veltliner. I believe he said it's South African Chenin Blanc, which I thought was Steen.
Yep, that's it.
Whatever.
That's this one.
Right. And Albarino, right? So my original theory was, I wanted, and I might do this for the later episodes on wine, is go with the pairing that seems obvious, right? Now, the thing is, because of those three wines, not everything was exactly one-to-one. I thought what was interesting when I did some of the research, and I'll have to bring this book out later. I have a book called What to Eat with What to Drink, and the book is in two halves. The first half is like wines and the other half is food. So it had a lot of pairings and stuff. Some of the things that really caught my eye, and they'll even write things in big caps, but for the Gruner, it was really interesting. It said, go with the stinky cheese, and I thought that was really fascinating. So that was one thing that popped up. For the Chenin Blanc, yeah, it's interesting that you brought up slanted door. Asian food really got put in there. Specifically, Szechuan peppercorns and mala. So mala is like when you have that, when you get those spicy wontons that have that red oil, boom. So there's the Chenin Blanc for that, right? So then the last one, Albarino, that was kind of a little bit more skewed. And what I think is always great is when Steve talks about wines, he talks about where it is on the planet, what countries and where they're matching. And Albarino was literally about this. It's on the
right
coast.
On the water, yeah.
You're on the freaking coast. It's warm. There's an ocean. You're eating seafood. There really isn't even a cheese that screamed Albarino to me as I was looking at stuff. You can always goat cheese and Manchego were kind of in there too. So, and again, I think, in newer episodes, I'm going to go, okay, here's cheese and then here's something kind of out of the box. But this time, because they were there's a little bit of a divide, all things considered. Okay. I did land on one thing that I thought, ooh, it smells good.
What's in the bag?
What's in the bag? I did land on one thing that I thought kind of nailed all three. And the Albarino was kind of the one that was almost kind of the most limited, the most focused in pairing.
Okay.
What we have here, gentlemen, another box. But I think this will work quite well. And I'm just going to, oh man, I've been wanting to try this particular food truck for some time. It's in my neighborhood. We have, gentlemen, a Baja style fish taco, codfish, a little bit of pico in there, the shredded cabbage, the crema.
Fantastic.
So fish tacos, fried seafood, and a little bit of spice. To me, covered all the bases.
All three wines
when it came to
all three wines.
All three.
Yeah, yeah. Now.
What kind of tortilla, Ali? Sure. What kind of tortilla did they do in Texas?
This was corn. So these folks are from Ensenada. The woman who helped me, she's from the town where we got married, Valle de Guadalupe, the wine country in Baja. Yeah. So, this is not Tex-Mex. This is
real.
It's literally called Ensenada.
Yeah, that's real.
So, fish tacos.
Let's shout out Best Fish Taco in Ensenada on Hillhurst in Los Angeles.
Oh, yeah.
BFTE, exactly. Best Fish Tacos in Ensenada. That's the name of the restaurant.
But yeah, that to
That's
me.
A great one, Ollie.
Look, and the other one I have here is a shrimp one. I mean, it basically.
Ollie, are you? But what are you putting on there?
Fried
salsa wise, Ollie. You doing pico? Are you doing? Is there crema? What's going on?
So there is on here. There's a very light pico. There's crema. There's cabbage. And then because I love salsa. I would probably hit it with just anything for the heat and stuff. But to me, the big things were seafood, fried food, and spice. Though all three of those things seem to play really, really well. And
one question on this. I've always wondered this and never really have looked it up. Why cabbage on fish tacos in this region?
I wonder if it...
I mean, the only this is what I'll tell you is it's actually not just there. There's in Arizona, and then really Arizona is a reflection of Sonora, right? So the Mexican state there. I go to a place that does Sonoran style hot dogs, which is a whole deal. Really? That's a whole deal. It's like a hot dog is a sandwich, and it's like this. It's got it's a hot dog that has mayo and crema and cabbage on there. They put cabbage on their tacos too. I mean, I think it's part of it is a texture thing. I would also say too, I think the pleasure of a crunchy fried fish taco, shrimp taco is crunch. Yeah. So you're just kind of adding that stuff in there too. But it's not just them. I don't really love raw cabbage on my steak tacos. I don't think you need it. And to Steve's point, as always, drink what you like, eat what you like. But I mean, it's the mayo, it's the crunch.
That makes sense.
This is not a carnitas taco experience. You know what I mean? It's just kind of
Internet says that cabbage is common in like all Mexican dishes, but that's what I found in like 30 seconds of looking. But it seems like it's pretty commonly used.
Okay.
I wonder if it sort of is like, I feel like it's like that thing with having a radish too, like is having that crispy, fresh bite with that, greasy taco that you're eating, and
I think it totally works well. And the last thing I got here was a shrimp cocktail, which for me
is that ceviche shrimp?
Work.
Or
It's
shrimp.
Ceviche. The difference between ceviche and cocktail is cocktail will have honestly a little bit of ketchup, but a lot of just like a lot of tang.
Okay.
And it just has a lot more like tomatoey flavor. Usually it's ketchup. I don't know about this recipe, but cocktail always threw me. I was like, this is kind of ketchupy, but it just kind of works. Mm-hmm.
So
you know what I mean?
Does the shrimp cook inside the dish itself, or do they cook it first?
Yeah, basically. Okay. There's enough acid in there where it's not. I mean, look, like it sits in acid, so it's gonna essentially tighten up, and then the length of time tells you how long. Or how much that shrimp essentially firms up a bit, but it was interesting. Like I had big ambitions.
What was the taco truck, Ollie? What was the name of the truck?
Ensenada. Let me make sure.
We'll have to shout this out.
Oh, there it is, right here. Ensenada ATX. Okay. Ensenada cool. ATX. BYO. Oh, that's really cool. This is the second place where they'll do a michelada, but they don't have alcohol. So you bring your own beer.
Oh, cool.
And then they'll, awesome. Yes. Yeah. And also, this particular food truck, the park that it's in, has Cuantos Tacos, which was featured on Somebody Feed Phil on Netflix. Mm-hmm. They do Mexico City style street tacos cooked in like that vat with all the fat vat, if you will. Yeah. They do that. San Martano, which is like this lights out pizza joint in Austin. Rolling Smoke, which is a barbecue joint. This Venezuelan arepas truck. The whole place is BYO. It's a food truck park. It's kind of like, it's Austin's that's kind of a thing here, is these multiple food trucks that really aren't trucks, they're trailers, and they have to park somewhere. So they stick them in a park. They're BYO. It's pretty fun. But to me, like covering all the bases, and also like still thinking out of the box, because
you like
Austria
to get weird.
And France, even South Africa, Spain, believe it or not, is not where tacos came from, right? So I thought the fish taco, because it had fried food was big, seafood was big, grilled shrimp because Albarino was big. So I thought the shrimp taco really just cut through.
I love these ideas. I'm going to shout out one thing you mentioned, only because I happen to have the wine that you're talking about. You said Chenin Blanc in the book said Szechuan peppercorn.
Szechuan peppercorn.
So that's because of that heat. You want to go with a sweeter wine. Now, that Chenin Blanc from South Africa, from Ken Forrester, this is not sweet. There is no residual sugar.
Okay.
But its ancestral home in France in the Loire Valley in Vouvray, and I just happen to have one, is a demi-sec. So medium dry. So there's residual sugar in this. This wine with like really spicy Asian food, Szechuan peppercorn. It's really big in LA at that Thai place, Jet Lada. Southern Thailand style food, which is so spicy, it's ridiculous. That's what this would go well with. What's the name
of this one?
It's interesting.
So the region is Vouvray.
Okay.
The main Hewitt is the winery. Okay, gotcha. It's a single vineyard. And then the sweetness level is designated on the label, demi-sec.
So I feel like the big thing, though, and with the pairings and bringing up spicy food, isn't just like, something to completely neutralize the heat necessarily. But I think it brings up this big point, and this has always been tricky when people are like, what wine would you pair with Indian food? And ultimately, not every white, but white is so much easier than red. And I think white, this is a great point where white wine does go great with Asian food and Mexican food and stuff where there's so much intense flavors beyond like what's coming from the food itself. Yes. Do you know what I mean? Like the spices, the aromatics, and then, you know, whatever else is going on in there, whether it is like kind of like lemongrass or all the other ginger, all those other crazy things that get in there. That's where it's like, you don't want that wine. The wine doesn't get in the way. The wine doesn't get in the way. That's where I think
it enhances the dish.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to sit and drink water with really spicy food, and you're not going to have a cocktail. You're not going to order a bunch of martinis. Beer gets too heavy when you're eating spicy food. Wine enhances the experience of the food that you're having.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's funny. It's like, especially if you're eating it, like that's when like, it just kills you. You know what I mean? Like beer and rice is not exactly that starts to hit hard, like you want to nibble on a couple sausages, sure. You know what I mean? Or you just have beer on its own, and then you eat after. Cocktails on its own, then you eat after. But wine, white wine, man. I think the big underlying thing here is all these great wines are all under 30-ish around, mostly, except for that Pinot Gris from Oregon. But they're all chill with food. They're all super chill with tough to pair foods.
This is awesome. Very cool. Great pairings, Ali. I like those. I like that you did that. The red bag. We got to look out for the red bag.
I know. I was excited. I knew this was coming. I just didn't know what was going to be in the bag.
Ali versus the bag.
Yes. I am a fish taco. I love fish tacos.
I saw a complete psychopath this week. I was getting takeout from a Mexican place, and they asked the guy if he wanted salsa to go with his meal, and he said no. So he just left without any salsa, and he must be a complete psychopath.
Yes, exactly.
So the confession I have, I didn't realize this, and actually, if anyone goes to Ensenada ATX, is you have to ask for salsas. They actually charge a little bit, it's like $1 per salsa. So even though it comes, this is technically fully dressed, and you want to be careful with this because there's as rich as it is, you don't need a ton of salsa.
No,
it's not like this is
that's
not
the
dry.
one taco that does not need a ton of salsa.
But you know what? I am when I do I'm gonna heat this up because it's been sitting here for like an hour plus. But when I heat this up, you better believe not only am I gonna add salsa, and I've got like 2 in my fridge, but this stuff. Have you ever noticed this with fish taco joints? They have hot sauces, Mexican hot sauces. That's kind of the move.
You're saying like a Tapatio or a
a Tapatio or Cholula, but those are just like a few.
Right, yeah.
Like these fish taco places that are not that common in Austin, ironically, just not. They'll have a bunch of stuff. Like some of them are like charred black. Some of them are that yucateco, whatever, the habanero stuff. But not just salsa, but hot sauce. Now, hot sauce is definitely, I think, a well-warranted move on a fish taco.
The spiciest salsa I've ever had happened to be at BFTE, Best Fish Taco in Ensenada. They're on Hillhurst in Los Feliz. And they do, I can't remember the fruit. It's either mango or pineapple, but it's a habanero salsa. I think it's a pineapple habanero salsa, and I just right on top after I dressed the fish taco. I couldn't even finish eating. It was so hot.
But habanero, though, in addition to having a lot of heat, has a lot of fruity flavors too. So that would be interesting to have that with, habanero. Talk about a tough pairing, habanero salsa. Steve, what is it? What wine would pair with the habanero?
You go
salsa?
Sweet Riesling on that one, or that Vouvray, that demi-sec would be amazing.
Very cool.
Yeah.
You'd probably finish half the bottle just over 2 tacos because you're.
I think that's cool. That's cool.
Thank you guys so much.
Spicy food and beverage is tricky. It's tricky,
not in this world, not in the white wine world.
No, it is. Yeah, it is. It's crazy.
I can't wait for this season, guys. This was awesome.
Yeah, looking forward to next week. We're going to be here same time, same channel. We're going to be at 11 o'clock Pacific, 2 Eastern. Steve, what region are you in again?
I'm in the mountain. I'm in Denver.
So mountain's going to be noon.
12 noon.
He's in the Pyrenees.
Ali.
Hey, really quick before we go, Chris Rossetti wanted to jump on here. I don't know if he's still there. Let's just have him jump in real quick before we say bye, but we are definitely out of time. Here we go. Oh, wait. There he is. Chris, are you there?
Hey. Yes.
There he is. How are you, sir?
Oh, great. Good afternoon from San Francisco. I'm learning an awful lot today. I want to harken back to something you all mentioned a while back. I think it was Browning or the Maillard effect.
Maillard, yeah.
Yeah, what is it again?
Maillard.
Maillard.
It's like Spanish. Treat the 2 L's like a Y.
Yeah, Maillard. Sí, claro que sí. Because I want to try to introduce that into my lingo now, because for 35 years of my marriage, whenever my wife burns something, I come home and I say, "Oh, we're having Cajun tonight." That hasn't gone very well.
Fair enough.
So thank you for saving my marriage, guys. Goodbye.
We have a couple of new words.
Oh, wow. You stayed online for a good old crack. That's
Chris,
good.
thanks for joining. Almost every week, Chris is here.
He says hi. Well, cool. That was worth the having him on. Yeah,
yes.
Cajun.
Yeah, that's what we need.
All right, gents. Well, unless there's anything else, I'm going to wave.
Yep. We'll see you next week. We're going to do red wine next week. Okay. I don't have acronyms. I guess you could also say anything but Cabernet, but we're going to dive down a lot of rabbit holes next week too. Things that people just don't think about.
Looking forward to it, you guys. We'll see you next week at the same time, same channel, Fireside. Awesome. Eat this, drink that.
And more SAT words.
Do it.